What is up? Sitting here with my pup who doesn't fit on this chair, but he decided to sit with me anyways. Fifth episode. I decided what I'm going to do is every fifth episode, I'm going to talk about one of the Bomb City founders, which Bomb City is made up of myself, Ryan Montalvo, AJ Henderson, who I'm sure you all know and love, Sean Fernando, who's out there in those streets. He kind of looks like an Indian version of me, and Joe Green, who is a political Pakistani gentleman who I've referenced on the podcast in the past as getting very fit. Also, just a side note for this week's episode, Mark Pena, who I talked about in the last episode, so graciously offered to help mix these so they don't sound terrible. So I really want to put his mixing to the test. So what I'd like to do on a couple of these is I'm going to just make a couple really loud noises. I want to see how he deals with them. So this is actually a garbage disposal here. Okay, cool. I have two stray cats. Let me just let one of them out here. I'm going to let them fight for a little bit. Oh, wow. That was oh man, that one's really getting the better of the other one. Okay, let me stop that. Okay. All right, so this is just two quick things. Let's see if Mark can kind of edit out the audio from that. But thanks to Mark for doing that. That's awfully nice of you. But yeah, so every fifth episode, I'm going to talk about one of the Bomb City guys because they each deserve their own episode. And then probably what I'd also like to do, well, I'll save that for another time. I'm also going to have a singular episode about Bob Woods soon. So Bob, if you're listening to this, Bobby, you're going to I'm going to do a nice episode there for you, guy. Maybe you can go have a dog over at Portillo's and listen to the episode, okay? Okay. So anyhow, this episode's going to be devoted to AJ Henderson. AJ, who, I guess, so one of the first people I met was Bob Woods, but then also the same night I met Sean Fernando. And me and we hung out that night. We did 2 open mics in a row, and then Sean kind of dropped off for a little bit. He eventually came back to the scene, and that's how I met Joe, and that's how I met AJ as well. When I first met AJ, I was sitting at a table, I think, with Joe and Sean, and AJ just kind of materialized what seemed to be out of the rain. From what I remember, I think his hair was wet for some reason. I don't know why. That's just how I remember him. Almost being born into our group. And I knew I'd seen him around a little bit, but I didn't really catch too much of his comedy. And then when we all started hanging out, I just noticed he was funny in conversation. And then when I saw him on stage, I was like, oh, this guy's really fucking funny. AJ has some of like the smartest jokes I think I've heard from anybody in Austin. I hate to use the word underrated, but such a great stand-up mind. He's got a really interesting presence on stage. His movements are interesting, and his jokes are good. I mean, his Cracker Barrel joke is hilarious. It's such a well-crafted joke too. But anyhow, so he's part of the Bomb City crew. We've spent many nights hanging out at diners, talking about comedy and making each other laugh, which is great. One of the things I really value about my friendship with AJ and the rest of the Bomb City boys is that being able to like workshop jokes and not really even know it. Like one of us will just tell a story about something and then the others will like chime in with funny things. Like I feel like one of my strongest jokes came from one of our conversations of just this absurd premises. And so I'm really thankful for that. Otherwise, I would just be writing jokes in a silo and I would have no idea how they would work on stage. But yeah, I mean, just a good dude. One of my favorite stories of AJ is he's also like, I think the first, well, he's the most consistent, I would say, out of all of us in terms of getting laughs. Not to shit on the other Bomb City guys, but I just think he's, because they get laughs too. But I think AJ is the most consistent to me. But there was one night when he was telling jokes at the parlor, and there was this guy who was like semi-heckling, and everybody was kind of taking jabs at him throughout the night. And somehow AJ kind of finagled a conversation out of it with the guy. And the guy was like, what do you want me to do? You want me to shut up? He goes, I'll pay you. And then I can shut up. And AJ was like, yeah, sure, for sure. Let's do it. So he just gave AJ money and got like a standing ovation at the bar. It was such a bizarre night, but I remember it just felt so good to see one of my friends doing really well. And I know I think a lot of times when people say that they're happy for their friends, it sounds phony. But with comedy versus music, which I used to be when I used to play music, one of the reasons that I stopped playing music is because I got really bitter and really jealous and really entitled for no reason. I mean, I felt mad when other people did well. I got jealous that people would get gigs, and and I wrapped so much of my identity in music that I wrapped up so much of my identity in music that if somebody insulted or slighted my music, it was like they were slighting me as a person. So one of the things I've been trying to do with comedy is be able to separate those two things and be happy for somebody professionally, even if I'm not friends with them. And in this case, I'm friends with AJ, and I love him to death. He's just a good dude. But yeah, that was one of my favorite stories. And then I think he was there with that same guy. This is just like a goofy little story that I'll tag onto this. And I'll probably end up doing multiple episodes because I have so many stories with AJ, Sean, and Joe. Who AJ was kind of like the brainchild behind where we got the first Bomb City open mic venue, and like kind of the look of our flyers and the ideas behind it. And then Sean kind of put those ideas onto paper, literally. But I'll have to tell a story too about when we went out and posted flyers. But anyhow, he's kind of the brainchild behind that, and then also the brain that got us to iHeartVideo. So he's also like really pretty deeply woven into the stand-up comedy culture here in Austin, because he used to have a podcast with I knew I was going to forget his name, Chris Tellez, I think. But anyhow, if you know AJ, you probably like AJ. But anyhow, so the same story, that same guy that ended up paying him $1, we were outside and outside parlor talking. And for some reason, he keyed in on me and got upset with me about something and goes, oh, yeah, you're a smart guy, huh? And I was like, yeah, of course. And he goes, oh, yeah, well, you met your intellectual match when you met me. Which is great because I don't consider myself an intellectual by any means. So the fact that he found me his intellectual match was like, dude, that means you have very little intellect. So I'm into it. Let's do it. What do you got? So I challenged him to a battle of wits where we asked questions to each other. So he asked me a question about an anvil. And I was like, all right, well, I don't know that one. It was some specific thing about anvils, and I didn't know the answer, so he bested me on that one. The first round went to him. I'll try to put this delicately, but he also struck me as a racist. So my question to him was what country the food pho came from. Blew his mind. He had no idea. He'd never heard of it. He thought I was tricking him. Wasn't a trick question. Very straightforward. Couldn't get the answer. 1-1. So then the third question comes up, and he asks me again about anvils. And I was like, dude, what's with you and anvils? Turns out that his job has something to do with anvils. So I told him a joke. And I can't remember exactly how. I'll end this episode with this joke. There's two guys walking through the forest, and they come upon a hole in the ground. And it's super deep. They can't see the bottom of it. They're like, man. So one guy turns to the other and goes, man, how deep do you think that thing is? He goes, I don't know. We should drop something in there and see when it lands. So they look around, and there's an anvil there, like right next to the hole. So the guy was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, throw that down. So he chunks it down. It goes screaming down the hole, but they don't hear it land. But they do start hearing something come from behind them in the forest, start running really fast. So they turn to see what it is, and it's a goat. And the goat's running full speed, goes flying right after the anvil into the hole. So they were like, dumbfounded. They had no idea what just happened. So they're sitting there talking about it. A couple minutes later, a guy comes up and goes, hey guys, have you seen my goat? I lost my goat. And the guys go, no, I mean, they said, no, wasn't they say no? Damn it, I fucked it up. But they said, yeah, we did see him. He came running through here and dove into the hole. And he goes, that's impossible. I tied an anvil to him. So I tell the joke to the guy, and the guy goes, well, you never told me about the rope. So anyhow, I think AJ was there for that story. Thank you, AJ, for being a positive presence in the Austin stand-up community, and for partnering up with me and Sean and Joe and getting the Bomb City thing going. Comedy has really been a positive force in my life, and I really do thank you deeply for being part of that. Mark, if you could put at the end of this just a kind of like a boing noise, like a boing. If you could throw that in here, I don't know why. I want to test your skills. So I think that's it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening. Stay safe, stay healthy. Stand-up comedy will be back. Have a great rest of your day.